Singapore announces 301 new Covid-19 infections and expects the numbers to be volatile in the coming days.
Japan sees a resurgence in Covid-19 cases, but the Prime Minister says there's no need to call a state of emergency.
Because of who you are, I can be everything I am.
Get ready to be entertained. This year's NDP evening show has something for everyone.
Good evening, you're watching The Big Story, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. I'm Olivia Quay.
And I'm Haryanto Diman. Now you can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode.
301 new Covid-19 cases were confirmed today, taking Singapore's total to over 54,500. Today's count includes 4 community cases comprising 3 Singaporeans or permanent residents and a work pass holder.
There were also 4 imported cases who had been placed on stay-home notices upon arrival in Singapore. Migrant workers living in dormitories make up the vast majority of the other cases.
Now, it has been a long few months for our migrant workers who have been confined to their living quarters in the dorms. The Manpower Ministry told the Straits Times that it's working with partners to offer these foreign workers more mental health support, as well as giving them more freedom to leave the dorms.
Since May, there have been at least 5 workers detained under the Mental Health Act after attempting to hurt themselves, and at least 2 reported cases of workers dying of unnatural causes in dorms. Currently, workers staying in the dorms cannot leave the premises for the most part, even on their rest days. Two major banks here, DBS and UOB, reported declines in profit for the second quarter of the year. The main reason, both had to set aside millions of more dollars in provisions to cover bad loans as customers defaulted on payments.
DBS saw a 22% drop in net profit, while UOB posted a 40% decrease. Despite the uncertainties brought on by Covid-19, both banks stressed that their balance sheets remain strong and they will continue supporting customers through these challenging times.
On the stock market today, investors took a positive view of the results, with both DBS and UOB shares closing higher.
For more on the results, we're joined by journalist Aw Cheng Wei. Net profit fell sharply for both banks, down 22% for DBS and down 40% for UOB. We mentioned bad loans earlier, Cheng Wei, but what's hurting banks the most?
So moving forward, loan growth will be an issue. Companies just aren't expanding or borrowing to expand as much as before.
Right, Cheng Wei, both DBS and UOB say the results demonstrate their resilience to economic shocks, but with so much uncertainty given the COVID-19 situation, are there any bright spots going forward?
Digitalization trends caused by COVID-19 should help certain industries. We don't see all industries being hurt equally. So we have the hardware manufacturers that make laptops that will help people who are working from home do their work easier. So that will be a bright spot. I think moving forward, DBS chief did say that this is also a chance to build back better. So he suggested climate change and sustainability as issues that the bank hopes to promote. So with this reset, he calls it, it will be also a chance to be, in a way, build back the economy in a fairer way and more sustainable manner.
Well, thank you so much, Cheng Wei, for your insights and, of course, for coming on to the show. There was journalist at the Straits Times, Aw Cheng Wei.
In other local news, a study by Facebook and consulting firm Bain & Company found that the number of Southeast Asian digital consumers is expected to hit 310 million by the end of 2020. Experts had earlier forecast that the figure would only be reached in 2025. This year, Southeast Asian consumers bought items from an average of 5.1 categories, a rise of 40% from 2019. Most notably, the COVID-19 pandemic had spurred shoppers to go online for groceries more than ever before.
According to flash data by SRX Property, the number of HDB resale transactions continued to remain high in July. Around 2,470 resale flats were sold last month, a 0.7% increase from June, and the highest monthly sales in 2 years. Resale prices also increased in July by 0.4%. Property analysts said that despite the bleak economic outlook, the HDB resale market will likely weather the pandemic.
And the Singapore Red Cross will donate an initial sum of $50,000 towards the emergency response and medical support by its Lebanese counterpart. This in the wake of Tuesday's warehouse explosion in Beirut that killed 135 people and injured more than 5,000. The organization also said it will continue to monitor the situation and, if needed, increase its support for the relief efforts.
In light of daily records of COVID-19 cases in Japan, Tokyo's governor urged residents to stay home over the upcoming Obon festival holiday, where people typically leave the capital to visit their family homes. And there are early signs that people are taking heed.
The bookings website for tickets on Shinkansen bullet trains from Tokyo, which normally sell out within minutes of going on sale, showed notable vacancies. Official messages on travel remain mixed, with the central government not stopping a national tourism campaign while urging people to do all they can to prevent further spread of the virus.
We have the Straits Times Japan correspondent Walter Sim joining us from Tokyo. Walter, over the past week, Japan has reported an average of around 1,300 COVID-19 cases each day. What contributed to the latest resurgence?
So I do think that Japan is a cautionary tale of what might happen if a country emerges from its shutdown too quickly. So the Japanese government, I think, is right to say that there is a need to balance health risks with economic interests. But in Japan, it has been tilted heavily towards the resumption of economic activities. We see companies that used to have telework arrangements during the state of emergency, having their employees go back to office. We see restaurants, nightlife establishment outlets reopening. And I think it's interesting to note that when Japan lifted the state of emergency on May 25th, there were just 21 cases in the entire country. And now, as you pointed out, it's averaging around 1,300 cases a day. So the national government insists that it has the situation under control, which is why no state of emergency is necessary again. It's not as bad as in April and May when hospitals were overburdened and many of the cases then were elderly. There is kind of a clash between the national government as well as the local prefecture government level. So in Tokyo, Osaka, asking restaurants and entertainment outlets to close early. They're encouraging residents not to travel. Others like Okinawa and Aichi, where Nagoya is located, they have actually declared their own state of emergency. And I think it will be interesting to see how Japan moves on from this.
Well, with the upcoming Obon festival holiday, people will head home to visit graves and spend time with their family. Are we expecting the conditions in Japan to worsen then owed to this surge of domestic travel?
I think the short answer is yes. It's reasonable to expect numbers to grow. And this is because of the rise in domestic travel that is expected next week with the Obon Festival. And also, to be fair, Japan is testing a lot more now, in line with an increase in its testing capacity. But it also depends on how widely people choose to travel. So the rising numbers would definitely give a lot of pause for some people, and that has been precedent in how people abstain from traveling in May during the Golden Week, which was another prominent stretch of holidays.
Well, thank you, Walter. And of course, do stay safe in Tokyo. I've been speaking to the Straits Times Japan correspondent, Walter Sim. For more global headlines, let's go to Dylan Ang.
Good evening, I'm Dylan Ang. Let's take a look at the global headlines. Emergency aid has been dispatched to Lebanon as nations offer support following the deadly Beirut explosion that killed at least 113 people. Gulf states were among the first to respond, with Qatar sending mobile hospitals, collapsible beds and generators, and Kuwait sending medical supplies. Other help sent to the city includes doctors, police, firefighters, rescue experts and sniffer dogs. In a show of support, the Eiffel Tower switched off its lights an hour earlier than usual to commemorate the Beirut victims. Earlier in the evening, a candlelit vigil was also held at the Sacré-Cœur in Paris, where people stood in silence, draped in Lebanese flags. The US said it was stepping up efforts to purge untrusted Chinese apps from digital networks, as it called the Chinese-owned app TikTok and messenger app WeChat significant threats. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said expanded efforts in the program it calls Clean Network would focus on 5 areas and include steps to prevent various Chinese apps as well as Chinese telecoms companies, from accessing sensitive information on American citizens and businesses. The Philippine economy suffered its deepest contraction on record in the second quarter and revised down its forecast for the year amid one of Asia's strictest lockdowns against the coronavirus. The nation's GDP shrank 16.5% from a year ago, the worst reading in a data series going back to 1981. And those are the headlines around the world. It's back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Dylan. Now back home, as you know, this year's National Day Parade will be split for the first time ever into a morning parade segment and an evening show. And unlike previous years, the evening show held at the Star Vista will only see 150 attendees, down from the usual thousands.
But you can still catch the performances from the comfort of your own homes by downloading the e-guide released today. Multimedia journalist Renee Poe has more on the offerings of the night.
Sea of shining crystals in the sand.
Group performances, a virtual choir, lighting up the night sky across the island. Singaporeans can look forward to a very different National Day Parade evening show this year, which they can participate in from the comfort of their own homes. Broadcast live from the Star Performing Arts Centre, the show comprises 6 acts set around the Covid-19 pandemic. This is the first time the NDP show is being conducted indoors and was conceptualized to be best enjoyed on the screen.
So in terms of the camera angles and how we are going to capture, right, it's very much catered to individual. There'll be more close-ups, and also we will also have films because this is the medium that reaches out to the TV audience.
Stories of everyday Singaporeans form the centerpiece of the show, showcased through a series of short films and performances. Those watching at home will be encouraged to sing along to familiar National Day songs and recite the pledge as a nation at 8:20 p.m. They can also join in the light-up moment, turning on their phone torch lights to pay tribute to Singapore's frontline workers. Singer-songwriter Nathan Hartono, who performs this year's NDP theme song, says he could not contain his excitement at being part of the show.
I'm really just so curious to how the audience is going to take it, because again, this year's show is going to, it's not only going to look different, but it's going to feel very different as well. It's going to feel more like a love letter than a big bash.
For this year's show, organizers took care to ensure the safety of participants. They have to take 2 swab tests, and rehearsals are conducted across staggered timings and separate locations.
This has been a very challenging year to organize NDP, but it has also been a very meaningful journey for all of us on the team. We hope that through these stories that we're going to share through NDP, Singaporeans can appreciate the kindness and the compassion that have taken place throughout this unprecedented year, and that we can continue to look forward with optimism and hope and emerge stronger as a country.
Some 250 performers and live spectators will be participating in this year's evening show. Members of the audience will include President Halimah Yacob, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, and other cabinet members. Despite the smaller scale, organizers hope the performance will give viewers a meaningful and memorable National Day experience. We are coming to you live from the Padang this Sunday morning to celebrate the nation's birthday.
Right in the heart of Sengkang,
Ong Ting Fong Hospital,
Bukit Hospital.
live from Changi Airport.
The Red Lions are scheduled to arrive from the sky any moment now.
Just 3 days to Singapore's 55th birthday. Make time to celebrate with us on a very special NDP show, live this Sunday, August 9th from 9:30 a.m.
From the parade at the Padang to the Red Lions in the Heartlands, we'll have you covered from start to finish, so be sure to join us.
And of course, for more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below.
Once again, I'm Haryanto Diman with Olivia Quay. See you tomorrow for more stories on A Big Story.